Well, hi. Here we go again. So, I have my red mixture that I used right here on the shirts, and I've just moved some of it over. Whoops. Paper towels. Here they are. I have the same mixture that I used on the shirts, and I moved it over here, and I put some black into it, just a little bit. I think I'm going to add a little bit more. You could use a phthalo green blue shade too if you wanted, but I thought I'd go with this. So the other thing that you could do, you could draw your shadows in if you wanted to. Here, I'll do the little bit right here. See, I don't want the shadow to go over the blue and the white there. We're going to put a shadow on our whites. That's a big deal. We don't have shadow on these shoes yet. So we're going to come down here, go back up to there. You know, there's some shadow up here. Maybe we'll do that. We could come in here and make something like that. I don't know. And again, that was pretty arbitrary. I left a lot of things out. I just did what suited me. Okay, let's see what this color looks like. This looks pretty strong, but remember, it's wet. I'm guessing it's going to be about right. You could test it on a little spot and get it dry if you're concerned about it. The major thing is, again, you want it to look like a shadow on this and not like some separate color. Oh, whoops, I lost my line here. Okay. So I'm going to come down here. And you know, there's some wrinkles in the shirt. So, in fact, there's a wrinkle over here, too. Up under here. Yeah, I think it's a good idea to draw this out ahead of time. This is dark enough that your lines probably wouldn't show up anyway. And let's see, da-da-da. So I want to break some edges on this shadow. That's sort of a stiff-looking straight line there. Let's just put a little curve in it. So, got my paper towel handy. You could use, you know, this little flat brush is so great for breaking edges. So I've got a nice squishy, thick mixture here. I just want to break a few edges. Maybe one down here, maybe one over here. And the thing about those broken edges are you got to watch them a while. You know that. So over here, we really need to break some edges. We want to make a few more wrinkles in the shirt. There may be a little bit lighter. Break that edge there. Oh, this needs to come up under here. Well, I'll just break that edge. See, that'll be a little bit lighter. See, like that. Break right there, too. You know, the thing is, it's not just about where you choose to break the edge. It's how many breaks you make. Too many, and you lose the effect. Not enough, and it can look really stiff and awkward. I'm not so sure about this. Now, this looks so light to me right now, but I got to see that dry. This was a nice strong red before I put this on it, and now it feels like puny. But again, this is wet. So, let's go over here. I didn't draw this one out, but you could. should. Oh, I forgot to set my timer. I'm trying to time these so I don't run over a certain amount. And then I can just do this lesson in an A and a B, and it just, YouTube seems to like it better that way. And if you want to, you can come back and add some little shapes in the shadows too. I may do a little of that just to demonstrate it later. Okay, so I got something like that. And again, I could just break some edges. I think I didn't get this on quite as heavy as I did over here. And then, you know, where you have broken edges, you need to go back and double check and make sure that they stay soft edge. Those did so far. Okay. Maybe there. Okay. Let's stop with that. Let's see, where can we go next? Because a lot of this is wet. One of the things I need a gray, particularly on these shoes. These shoes and this little tag, they're not going to be white. Look at this. Look how dark all this is. And it's not just because he's got dirt on his shoes. It's because that area is in shadow. See, his skin is really shadowed. His socks are really shadowed. I have a little bit of gray left here from when we put the grays on the shoe here, down here. So I could thin some of that out and put an overall gray on this. Try not to bump it into the red because I really didn't want it to bleed on the shoe. By the way, I'm going to let you finish these shoes on your own. You don't need me to tell you how to finish the shoes as long as you've got some shadow on them. There's some shadow on this tag right across there. I would put it on the blue too, but I don't want all this to run together. So maybe I put a little shadow there on the tag. And then these shoes should have a little bit of shadow on them. They've got some white area there, but they shouldn't just be stark white. I'm going to go ahead and put a paler mixture of the shadow color on these. I'll leave a little sparkle of white right there. Okay, so let's do that. And then let's get that dry. Well, we can see that this shadow is working pretty well, and this shadow is too strong. So let's go back with a little water. Wet it down and give it a blot. And then I think also I may pull some of that color over into this area, which just looks too light now anyway. So I've rubbed a little too much there. It's going to go really light. So I've darkened some of these other areas a little bit. I've just moved the color around. I may not even blot that. I think I'm going to work with this color moved around for right now. Let's re-soften these edges. And, well, actually, I think I want all that a little darker too. It's amazing how one thing being a little off makes everything change. Okay, so I've got softened, that's softened the edges all along here, but they're not too soft so far. I like what I see happening right here. So you see, I took a disaster and turned it into something pretty good. I might even take some more of this dark mixture and go ahead and add a little bit more darks right along the back here. Maybe put a little more black. See, that's extra dark right there. Where does it need to be extra dark? You know, there's an extra dark place right under here, which I didn't even have dark. Right there. Might do a wrinkle or two through here. I had someone that was bothered about these shapes because they thought they ought to be smooth. So if you put a wrinkle in, then it explains why it's not smooth. And maybe a little bit more here along the back. Something like that. You know, you can do things like that. I don't think that that'll look much darker when that's dry. Okay, so let's let this dry. Wow, that did exactly what I wanted. When does that ever happen? Okay, let's look at the skin a little bit more now. Oh, and this spot right here, do I have... Oh, I don't have what I need out here. I want to lift an area there. I got that filled in wrong. See right there, there needs to be a little bit more curve. It's just driving me nuts when I look at it. All right, forget that for now. I don't have to do that on camera anyway. So let's say, you know, the skin now, I don't have the skin anywhere near as dark enough with the reds is what I wanted. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my red and gold mixture here. Oh, well, that would be over the top, wouldn't it? Let's put a little more gold in that. Whoa, we've got a lot of gold in that. Yeah, okay, I'm going with this. And then let's pre-wet the area again. Tell you what, let's pick... There's all kinds of noises out here today making noise on my... No doubt making noise on my video. Okay, just looking for a little bit smaller brush. I'm going to put some water up here on this knee. I wasn't going to need to add an extra layer here yet of reds, but I just didn't get this strong enough. So I'm going to pick up some of this color and I'm going to put it there on the leg. Oh my gosh, his leg looks like a shirt. What I wanted to do, I wasn't going to layer this. I was going to mix a color, but I feel like it would be too flat because I didn't get my reds deep enough yet. So we're going to have something like this going on. I'm just coaxing this up here this way. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Okay, since that worked, let's wet down his head one more. Tell you what, let's wet down all the way to in back of the ear like this. And not quite to the edge here. Not quite to the edge there. I'm going to try to make a darker area that's a little bit smaller I know it's hard for you to see what I'm doing here right now. Pull that up there. Of course, that's going into the hair. And back in here. Yeah, like that. And then I'm going to soften these edges. Wow, the way it's acting right now, I might not even need to soften them. They might just be just perfect the way they are. Well, I'll tinker with that. And I'll tinker with this just a little bit. Okay. I need a smaller brush here. So, what about... Okay, I'm going to wet down this area right here. I guess I'll get the whole ear there. See, what I want to do is keep that little highlight along the side of the neck as it extends up behind the ear. See that area there? And so what I just started to do, I'm not going to do yet. I'm going to let that dry first. So I'll come over here and I'll work on this arm. And same thing, I'm going to pre-wet this, but not to the old edges. I'm going to go smaller so that I get more of a graduated effect. This arm stays dark all the way up there. Like that. Let's soften that edge ever so gently. And remember, because we've already got more paint down here, this surface doesn't just swallow it up. And we could tell more what we're doing too by the look of it, because we're seeing a more graduated edge happening here. Down here, there is, I don't know if you could see it or not, but that little bone, this thing right here, mine stands out a lot. Well, it used to stand out a lot when I was thin. That little place right there, that tells you that's the end of the wrist. Whoa, that's way dark. So let's pull that color up. But it's just so small. I'm trying to leave it with enough of an edge that you can see it there. And then this part of the hand is way darker. And what we want to do is soften that edge for sure right up here. In fact, I think that's a little strong. I'll just pull a little color up there. I'm washing the brush out, squeezing it out. Just keeping an eye on these things, you know. You just have to watch them a little bit because this is watercolor and it has a mind of its own. So this leg has a little area there that's more in shadow. And then there's more shadow comes up under here. In some places on the leg, you can't actually tell if it's the leg or the pants or what it is because it's really in shadow. See, I just softened that area right there. So I put this in on just totally dry paper, and then I did that. And maybe right here, maybe I'll wet the middle, but not all the way up to the old area. So that doesn't affect what I did over here. So I'm wetting that middle area. Let's thin this out just a little bit. And see, by having a lot more yellow in this, they're not screaming pink. Look at that. See, it almost does it by itself. I'm going to wash the brush out, squeeze it out, and kind of coax it a little bit here. But I've got something like that. I think I need to extend that shadow. His leg looks a little fat there, doesn't it? Okay, let's come up here. Let's do the same thing with this one. See this area here on the back of the neck, on the side of the neck. See right there where we got a highlight? I want to keep that. So what I'm going to do is I'm wetting down this area, but not all the way to that lighter area of the neck. I'm just wetting that down a little bit so that I can get a soft edge there. I don't have a lot of water on it. And I'm going to come back in here. And all of this area of the back of his neck, there's not a highlight over there. And there's not a highlight on this ear. It's just a dark shadow. But then over here, we want that softened edge. And I'll soften it coming up into his hair a little bit too. Just because. Probably don't need to. Okay, so I've got a squeezed out brush, and I could tickle this along if I need to. Probably don't even need to. See, that's making that soft graduated edge. So that's a real good effect. Now I need to get this dry. Oh, there's a place here that I forgot on this sleeve. That's just that in-between color. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to let these dry, and then we're going to come back and do the bits on the faces and that hand. Can you see how these darks are beginning to make that glow like around the head and the little highlight areas? And when I put enough Quinn Gold into the red, now that it's dried, that's not unlike that skin at all. It needs, it still needs more things, but to change the color, but it is somewhat muted, so it looks pretty nice. I'm really pleased with the way this is going. Okay, so let's finish up the face, and then we'll call that the first half of part 3. Okay, so what I want here is I want this area up to there, and it can include the ear, but see, I'm not wetting down this little area that runs along the neck and up behind the ear. Just pick up a little bit of color here, see what it does. Okay, good. Good. So go ahead and color that ear. Don't want the ear to get too dark, but right there is okay. And I think I need to soften this edge just a little bit. So again, that's clean water, squeezed out brush. Let's just touch along there. I think I could use a little more color right in here. I need to go a little further out. And so that means that I don't have that soft edge that I had from the former color because I pulled this out further. So I'm going to do this. Now you will have, this is just how I adjust a situation. Your situation may be very different from what I'm encountering. Just want to soften that a little bit more, get a little bit darker right up in there. There, I think that's pretty good. Okay, let's come over here. And it's the same deal. We're going to wet along here and not wet that highlighted area on the neck. I think I have that highlighted area looking a little too big though. I'll have to come back and do something about that. So right there, and that's just a little bit of water because I'm only picking up, see, I'm only picking up a tiny amount of paint. In fact, this paint has pretty much dried on there. And so I'm just picking up that tiny little bit right there on the tip of my brush. And I'm looking again at the photo, and I want to get right there. And I'll leave the tip of that ear light. Whoa, okay. So I should not have gone that light. I need to get lighter right there. And then soften that edge. And then we've got to keep an eye on it, because I want to keep it pretty light right here. Squeezing that brush out, pulling up, just keeping an eye on it. And this area here, I think it's dry enough. I'm going to come in and get the dark a little further in. I'm being really, really picky with this, and it doesn't need to be that careful of a situation. Sometimes I get a little too carried away. So I want to soften that edge, because, see, that's too stark. That looks unreal there. So, again, this is a clean brush now, just barely touching those edges and talking to it very gently. There is so little water there that it's not going to flow out, so I don't need to add water back in. But I need to pull up and maybe just keep an eye on it for a minute. That's pretty good. So let's do this hand. I'm coming along here. This is dry. I'm working on dry paper this time, and I am going to do these shapes. Here's this little shape that comes in here before it goes around that little bone at the wrist that we were talking about over here. Only this time the little bone on the wrist is lighter instead of darker. And yeah, see, that's pretty good shape. You see that shape? So all I got to do is wash that brush out, because remember, there's not much water here, because this is a tiny area. So I don't have to get it real wet. I just barely dampen that edge. See right there? And then I'm going to wash it out, squeeze it out, and just kind of go back over and keep an eye on that edge. Good, I'm happy. This area there could have been a little darker, but I'd have to do that at a separate time. So a tiny bit of color. Go right there, deepen that just a little bit more, and right there, and I'm not even gonna soften those edges. Okay, we've got some pretty good shaping going on. So this is part 3A